So I'm going to get us rolling. My name is Charles Abel-Lear, and I am the Assistant Creative Director at KCRA 3 here in Sacramento. And what an Assistant Creative Director does is we have a lot of fun. Most important thing I would ever advise you to do is whatever career paths you decide to take, have fun with it. Be passionate, put yourself out there, put your full self out there. The more passionate, the more excited you are about what you do, the farther you will go in your career paths as you get out there into the business world. But what I do, my responsibility is I need to make sure that Channel 3, KCRA 3, looks and sounds and feels as up-to-date, as fresh, as modern, as trustworthy as possible. So I do all the art and graphics. Myself and my team, we do all the art and graphics for the station, and we put all the promos together. Do you guys know what a promo is? Have you heard that before? So when you go and you watch television, you're going to see an advertisement that talks about one of the TV shows we air or a newscast that we air. We call that a promo. It's short for promotion. So we put together all of the promos for KCRA 3. So I'm going to show you a little example of something that our team just put together. I did all the art and graphics for this. This is actually on our YouTube page. But when you go out there into the world of media, you're not just producing for television anymore. You're going for social media all over Twitter and Facebook, YouTube. Then we've got digital billboards all over town. You're going to find the art and graphics that you create are going to be used in multiple ways. But this is something that we just put together last week, and I did all the art and graphics for this.
Hit subscribe and never miss a moment from Sacramento's most trusted news team.
KCRA 3 News.
Winner of the National Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence and winner of the Regional Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall News Excellence for the 5th year in a row.
Ready, camera 3, take 3.
On the story with coverage right now.
On the scene, live with Live Copter 3, the only news helicopter in Sacramento.
On the air as soon as the story breaks.
And on the move, just like you.
All day, every day.
Anywhere, anytime, on any screen.
If it's happening now, we're on it.
Covering breaking news
like no one else can.
Subscribe and never miss a moment from KCRA 3 News.
So as an art director, we have to make sure that all the art we put together for our television station looks fresh, is clean, is up to date. So that's my responsibility, making sure KCRA 3 is completely up to date. And like I said, we do more graphics than just what you would see on television. So we just had a big election the other night. All over Sacramento, we had 12 digital billboards that we were putting together and updating in real-time election results. So we just elected Gavin Newsom as our new California governor. We had those results all over town. And where do you suppose this is? Does anybody recognize this? The Golden One Center. So we had scored the billboards on the side of the Golden One Center, and we were doing election updates in both English and in Spanish. So these are just different ways that we try to reach our viewers, and it's my responsibility, excuse me, I shouldn't touch my mic there. It's my responsibility to make sure that everything we do is accurate, clean, up-to-date, etc. And we're going to get into logo design here in a moment, but I just want to talk about how I got to this point in my career. And you too will find, as you get out there outside of school, there's going to be so many different things out there that you're going to dabble in, that you're going to experience. So I started off when I was in college. I took graphic design and animation, and I also went and majored in broadcasting and editing. And that's how I really got into the TV world with an influence in graphics. But when I was in college, I worked at UPS. So I loaded trucks and I made sure that the packages were being delivered to the right destinations. But my first real design job was at Office Depot, believe it or not. And I was 22 years old, just barely out of college, but I got so much experience designing business cards and letterhead and all sorts of different materials for businesses right there in a store in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And from that experience, I did that for 4 years. I got my first ever television job as a graphic designer at the CW in Minneapolis, St. Paul, just like we have CBS 13 here. So at that job, I worked really hard to try to build graphics for this television station to keep it modern and fresh. And through the years, I got promoted to being the promotion manager there. Just worked my way through the ranks. And after putting my resume reel out there on the internet, I was located, My 58 here in Sacramento. They were looking for somebody to come in and kind of freshen up what they were doing. They saw my resume, they saw my portfolio online. They reached out to me, and before you know it, I got the job out here in Sacramento, and it's been 7 years, and now I work for their sister station, KCRA 3, as their assistant creative director. So I've worn a lot of different hats through the years. But I'll tell you, like I said at the very beginning of this, the one thing that you need to be able to go through the ranks in your own careers one day is passion. Passion for what it is that you love to do and putting your best foot forward at all times. But that's kind of enough about me. We can get into more about that later if you have any questions about how I got into my career, more of what we do at the station. But I wanted to really touch base on what it takes to build an effective graphic or logo. Have any of you ever dabbled in designing a logo before? Give me a show of hands. What kind of things have you done?
For a school website.
Oh, nice. What was it?
It was our news website.
Oh, that's awesome. How about, I saw a couple of other hands. What did you do?
I did two things. One just simple thing for my school portfolio, and another thing for my Instagram, because I'm an artist on Instagram right now.
That's great. That's great. We had a lot of other hands. Any other logos?
I tried to do the same thing similarly for my school, try to make a Wolverine mascot, make it visually appealing. But it didn't go too well because I didn't know what I was doing. But
What happened with it?
well, I mean, it looked kind of sloppy because you have to trace and outline some stuff.
Yeah.
You have to be really precise with how you do it for it to come out accurate for that.
No, it's hard. Have any of you used Photoshop before? How about Illustrator? Illustrator is a lot trickier to use, but there's a huge benefit. There's a huge benefit to using Illustrator. And for that tracing that we were just talking about, you can do some very clean tracing. We'll get into vector versus raster here in a little bit. But Illustrator, it's a complicated program to learn, but that's a very effective software that you'll want to learn for designing logos and graphics down the road. So we're going to start off here. I want you just to go ahead and shout out the names of these logos if you recognize them, all right? NBC. Now here's something interesting about the NBC Peacock. The reason they went with a peacock is once upon a time television was all in black and white. And then in the 1960s, they had the technology to start broadcasting television shows in color. And at that point, NBC wanted to come up with a new version of their logo to demonstrate that they were this beautiful color network. Well, if you've ever seen a peacock unfurl its feathers, it has beautiful color to it. So they figured the peacock with all of its beautiful feathers would be the perfect image for their network. And the reason the face of the peacock is facing that way is they wanted their logo to face forward, not backwards. They wanted to be a network that was looking into the future. We're going to talk about logos that tell a story. They've got hidden meanings to them in a little bit, but I wanted to let you know that's why NBC went in that direction. All right, what's this one? Oops, let's see here. I screwed up my pointer. There we go. There's a little hidden message in this one too. This one's probably a little easier to figure out. Does anyone know what that's a photo of? A camera, very good. It's a very modern take on a camera. What Instagram did, if you remember a few years ago, this was the, tripping all over the place here, the Instagram logo. They modernized it to look more like this, but this is really a rendering of an old-fashioned point-and-shoot camera. And that's what Instagram's all about. It's about taking and sharing photos. Logos make such a deep, memorable impact on us that we can even recognize a logo when we can see just a small, insignificant portion of it. So what I want you to do now is go ahead and tell me if you can recognize these logos. Starbucks. Very good. Coca-Cola. Nice. Disneyland. Very good. See, that's what a logo is all about. It's instant recognizability for who you are. That's the #1 thing a logo will ever accomplish. And like you said, you can just look at little portions of it and instantly recognize that logo. Now, what I want you to do this time is, instead of telling me the name of the business, tell me what you think about when you see these logos. Tacos? Yep, go ahead and shout it out. Cars. Phones, computers, technology. Shoes. Nice. So logos are very impactful. Not only do they give you instant recognition of a business, but they also help you to be familiar with their particular product or what it is that they do. So what a logo is, it is basically the face of a company or some sort of an entity. It's an instantly recognizable representation of who you are. The same way if you saw your parents, your siblings, your best friend, you'd see their face, you'd instantly know who that person is, right? A logo is the face of your business. Have any of you ever heard of a brand before? Why I'm explaining what a brand is, because many people think a logo is a brand. A brand is what people think and feel about you. A business's attitude, its actions, its appearance, its history. It's what people perceive you to be. So for KCRA, our brand is news. And it's my responsibility to make sure that all of our viewers associate KCRA3 with being trustworthy, with being dependable, with being factual. Our logo is a big green 3. It's our face, it's how people recognize us, but our brand is trustworthy news. So that's very important, because if you ever have a designer that says they want to redefine their brand, they want to update their brand, the logo is just a part of that. And many people, many designers get stuck on designing a logo because they feel all this pressure to design something spectacular that's going to just totally redefine their business. Just start by thinking of it as it is simply the face. It's a way for people to recognize you. Take some of that pressure off of you to design something absolutely revolutionary. Designing a logo, it's easy, right? All you got to do is pick a font, pick a color, draw a little icon, and done, right? Unfortunately, there's a little bit more thought that goes into that, and that's what we're going to start getting into right now. As we demonstrated at the very beginning of this, a logo is the most memorable element of your brand. But it's also one of the most difficult that you'll create, because again, you'll feel like you have all this pressure on you to design something brilliant right out the door. It takes people many attempts to come up with the perfect logo, and businesses will often update their logo as time goes forward. But it takes time and research to create something that looks great and successfully conveys who you are to the world. And like I said, instead of feeling tremendous pressure to make that logo a physical representation of everything that business is about, focus on letting it just be a quick way for people to identify you. You know what I mean? Don't worry about the brand and everything else. Just right now focus on what you're going to create that really tells a story. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this. This part's all kind of the boring little precursor. Let's start to have some fun with this. So there are 8 steps that I'm going to talk about today to designing a good logo. Step number 1 is to do your research and know your brand. So in the example again of KCRA 3, our brand is news. So everything I create has to make sure that we're really moving the news trustworthiness of our brand forward. But if you were to sit down with your client and design a logo, ask them some questions. Spend time getting to know what their brand is, who they are and what they do. Talk to them about what kind of design are they looking for? And something that I used to do all the time when I was at Office Depot and I would do graphic design for my clients, or when I was a freelance graphic designer, I would always ask them, what are some logos that you like? What's something that stands out to you? And I'd ask them to provide me some examples, or maybe do a few little sketches of what they're thinking about. That would give me something to go off of to try to put something together that they would like. It's much harder to design something for somebody when you have no concept of what their tastes are, and when you have no concept of what it is their business is looking to do, what their business is looking to say. The second step is to know your audience and to tell a story. This is one of my favorite parts of logo design. I'm going to go in a little bit deeper on this one. A powerful logo can do a heck of a lot more for you than just identify a brand. It can contain a deeper hidden meaning that appeals to a target audience. So a few moments ago, we saw this logo, Starbucks. Does anybody actually know who this is? See, we see this logo just about every single street corner. People carry it around on their cups. In fact, we have big debates over holiday cups every single year, you know. But we have no idea who this person really is. The Starbucks logo on the left is their original logo that came out in 1971. That was the original logo that was on all of their storefronts in Seattle when they were just starting off. The founders wanted a seafaring history of coffee in Seattle's strong seaport town. Seattle's right there on the waterfront, and they just wanted a symbol of kind of that marine life. And after going through tons of books about marine life in Seattle, they found the perfect character. Her name is Siren. They found her in one of the books. She's a 16th century Norse woodcut of a twin-tailed mermaid. So those little things that you see on either side of her are two different tails. She's a storyteller, and she was the perfect character to symbolize Starbucks, because, you know, she would tell these long tales, and what more would you want in your coffee shop than somebody that would go in and, you know, tell long stories or, you know, things like that. That's perfect for a coffee shop image. She had a mystery about her, and it was mixed with a nautical theme. So Starbucks has updated their logo a little bit through the years to keep up with the times, and that's the logo that they use today. But whenever you see these on the sides, these are her twin tails. So they have a logo that clearly tells a story. Does anyone know what the hidden story is with this logo right here? 31 in the middle. 31 flavors, exactly. So Baskin-Robbins has been an ice cream parlor that's been around for decades, and they've always specialized in having 31 unique flavors. And they came up with a new version of their logo a few years ago that portrayed that, 31 flavors right in the logo. This is one of my favorites right here. Does anyone see what hidden marketing message is in this one?
On Wendy's collar, it says Mom to remind of home's food.
Did everybody catch that? Take a closer look at Wendy's collar here. This is awesome subliminal marketing right here. The word mom is embedded in her collar. And so it's a PR firm's little trick to, like, now that you see this, every time you see the Wendy's logo, you're going to see this, right? But the word mom is hidden in her collar, and it's a subliminal marketing message helping customers to associate their cooking with the same delicious cooking that mom would make, right? Here's another one of my favorites. I'm going to actually take from the back a little bit. What do you suppose it is?
Mom
Exactly. Does everybody see the arrow? These are one of these things, once you see it, you'll always see it. But this is the perfect message for FedEx. This is a delivery company, right? Their job is to move objects from point A to point B, so hiding that arrow in there is a perfect little subliminal marketing message for them. Here's another one that makes use of an arrow. Go ahead, right back there in the camouflage.
It's the A and there's a Z, so they have products from A to Z.
Everything under one company that you could possibly want from A to Z. And that's the whole reason between the A and the Z, the little arrow there. So these are some good examples of little stories that your logos can tell. All right, so step number 3. I'm going to teach you a little gentler version of it than what I was taught. Keep it super simple. When I was in design school, it was keep it simple, stupid. But I'm going to modernize that a little bit just to keep it a little bit friendlier. But I want everybody to say this with me. Keep it super simple.
Keep it super simple.
One more time.
Keep it super simple.
Why this is so important. This is especially true with me. I have a tendency to overthink things to the point where I actually get nothing done. Why you want to keep things simple. Remember the Instagram logo we saw a few moments ago? Imagine if the icon for Instagram on your phone was an actual picture of a point-and-shoot camera. It would look all right, but the icon that they're using is much simpler, it's much brighter, it's much more attention-getting, and we had a whole conversation about what it is that's an actual picture of, right? Simple logos will stand the test of time, and they'll help your brand be more easily recognized and versatile and memorable. The versatility part of it is very important. Let's say, for example, that Instagram did use a picture of a point-and-shoot camera as their logo. It would make that logo so much more difficult to try to print on t-shirts or to try to enlarge if you need to put it on a billboard or print it on the side of a building. The more simple your logo is, the more memorable it's going to be. What company do you suppose used this logo once upon a time?
Apple.
I am extremely impressed that you knew this. This is Apple's original logo. Do you know who that is sitting under that tree? Isaac Newton. Could you imagine if that was the logo that they used on phones today? It wouldn't look nearly as sleek as they currently do, right? But this is the original Apple computer logo. And it features Isaac Newton. And a very young Isaac Newton is sitting in his garden when an apple suddenly falls on his head, and in a stroke of brilliant insight, he discovers the theory of gravity. The designer of the original Apple logo was right on point in knowing Apple's brand. Apple has always been a company that wanted to be filled with brilliant ideas, to innovate, to change the world. Well, here they've got the story of the apple falling on Isaac Newton's head. He was a visionary himself, and that was a logo that indeed told a story like we talked about, right? But this is a very complex logo. This would be extremely hard for them to put on the back of a watch, on the back of an iPhone. It just didn't quite work. So they came up with a much simpler version, and this has been around, I'd say, probably for almost 40 years now. So make sure to keep your designs simple. Step number 4 is to keep up with the times. One of my favorite things to do is to look at competition out there and see what everybody else is doing. I love just going and looking through various magazines, going out on the internet and just researching. And for me, it's not just television. I love to look to see what all the tech companies are doing, what design firms are doing. For example, when I first came to KCRA 3 in my 58 7 years ago, we were all about making our graphics as shiny as can be with drop shadows and gradients. And now when I look at what a lot of major cable networks are doing, or design firms, graphics are kind of flat. There isn't a lot of drop shadow. It's just plain kind of white text, and things will change. And the designs I'm making at Channel 3 now will be very dated looking in 5 years. So it's important just to keep your eye open to kind of what's going on out there in the world of design. So I like to make a list of competitors in my particular industry and kind of see what they're doing. I love to see what their promos and their artwork looks like, and I'm sure in turn they're looking at ours. But just remember this, taking note of a current trend doesn't necessarily mean you have to follow them. If it just doesn't work for your particular design or your client or your business, you don't have to use it. Just follow your instincts, follow your guts, and you'll seldom go wrong. But it is good just to kind of know what's out there so you know what you're competing against. So I keep talking about Instagram and keeping up with the times. That was a perfect example of how they updated their logo a few years ago just to stay very modern and very simplistic. The Pepsi logo throughout time. This is another great example of a company that has worked really hard to stay up to the times. And you can see, I mean, back, what was this, 120 years ago? That was a very current looking logo for that time. And then through the early 1900s, they just freshened it up. They cleaned it up a little bit. This is very 1940s looking. 1950, they took that same logo, but after the war, they added the red, white, and blue to it. And ever since 1950, the red, white, and blue has been a very important part of their logo. And as you can see, all these different versions, what has stayed consistent about it?
They all say Pepsi.
What's that?
They all say Pepsi.
They all say Pepsi. That's very good. But since 1950, they have maintained kind of the red, white, and blue flag look to their logo. And even though very recently they changed the look of it, they gave it kind of a more modern take, they have not lost touch with their roots. They're still using kind of that same circular shape with the red, white, and blue. And this is still very recognizable because they didn't completely change it. If they all of a sudden came up with the Pepsi logo that was purple and green and brown, and it was a square, it wouldn't be very recognizable. But this is a perfect example of a company that did an update to it, but in a way that we can still recognize who they are. So the same can be said with what I have to do at KCRA 3. So last year, we were designing a new set, a new graphics package, and we were kind of looking at our logo, and we had a logo that was older than most of you in this room. It was around since the year 2000 and was looking pretty dated looking. So I was given the assignment to give our logo a little bit of a refresher. So what I want to show you is a brief history of all the various logos that we've used at Channel 3, including the one that we just debuted about a year ago.
It's really no wonder the news comes first on TV3.
Channel 3 will be able to provide live color telecast to Northern California.
Your place to be is right here, Channel 3.
Where the news comes first. At KCRA, that's more than a slogan. It's a commitment.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Walker.
And I'm Lois Hart. KCRA 3 Reports at 5 starts now.
Good evening. I'm Edie Lambert.
And I'm Golston Dart. And we begin tonight with some incredible video.
I was so excited to get that new set last year. Those are the very first shots that we got on that set. And it's been out for about a year now, but you're going to notice, here's the logo that we had been using since the year 2000. And this is the logo that I did last year. And it's a very small change. In fact, most people probably didn't even notice that we changed it. But this font right here, and we're going to talk about fonts in a few moments, fonts have personalities. Every typeset will convey a different message. And this particular font right here, It's pretty dated looking. When I was, I'd say like 1998, early 2000s, when I was just starting to learn design, this was a very futuristic looking font, but today it doesn't really convey that. It looks kind of old-fashioned, futuristic. Fonts today, a lot of fonts are just very clean. They're very sleek. So we just went with just a more modern looking font. And I've always felt like our little NBC Peacock was just kind of hanging out at the edge of the KCRA 3 logo. It didn't really have a reason to belong there, so I just moved it over the 3 so it felt like it belonged a little bit. This is not a significant change. But if I had done a very significant change and made our 3 purple and changed the font to say something that was like very cursive looking, people wouldn't recognize us anymore. Because as you look back through our logos through the years, what's been consistent for the last 30, 40 years? Go ahead and shout it out. The look of the 3. This 3 has been around. The look of this particular 3 has been around since 1988. And even before that, all the way back to 1959, the 3 has looked like that. So if I were to come in today and say, hey, I don't like the way that 3 looks, let's get rid of it, let's totally blow it up, people wouldn't recognize us as easily anymore. So I have a responsibility. If I make a change to our logo, I got to stay semi-current. I got to keep it within the family here. Here's another little question for you. Do you think there's a particular reason why that logo is green? What do you think?
Because it's fresh like plants.
Ooh, I like that idea, because it's fresh like plants. You're so onto something. I'm going to come back to that color green in a few moments exactly for that. The reason our logo has been green since 1960 when we went to color is because our company was founded by the Kelly family many, many, many years ago. So they chose Kelly green as the color of our logo. Gosh, what now, 58 years ago, 50 years ago? So we can't come along and really update that logo and change it to purple or red because we'd be losing decades worth of history. So there's a little hidden story with it. That leads us to step 5. Color is everything when you develop a logo. It connects with our feelings in a unique way. It's a powerful tool when making design decisions, because your color choices need to reflect the message and the meaning that you want to convey to your viewers. So you had just brought up the color green a few moments ago. Why do you suppose Starbucks uses the color green in their logo?
Fresh tea.
You're onto that, yeah. The freshness. It's a very eco-friendly company. They want to be very, they chose earth tones for their logos, the browns and the greens. From the very beginning, they wanted to be a company that was very environmentally responsible in using natural products. So if they had done a logo that was purple or red, it would convey a very different message. It would be bold, it would be attention-getting, but you wouldn't really get that earthy naturalness that you would say from the brown and the green. Because of the projector here, you can't really see that, but that is indeed a brown logo. So a research study came out that shows that 85% of people will make decisions on products or on businesses based on color alone. And it's the colors that you use in your logos that will have a deeper meaning to them that will appeal to your audience. And it will play a key role in how people recognize you. What color does the store Target use? Red. And when you walk into that store, everything in that store is red. And it's so minute, but you'll notice the next time you go to a Target, they recently updated their logo. All they did is they took their uppercase letters and they made them lowercase, but it's still the same logo. A little tweak, and they've modernized it, but they're maintaining their red. What color does Facebook use? If they all of a sudden had a green icon on your phone tomorrow morning, it would be a little harder to recognize it. Color is very important for rememberability. And just overall, all of us are going to have very unique feelings with particular colors. Every one of us have a favorite color. But overall, kind of your warm yellows, they're going to be just, it's kind of a clarity, peaceful, serene feeling. The reds are going to be very excitable. They're very bold. You're going to notice here again is your Target, Coca-Cola. These are attention-getting colors. Your red. Blue is a confidence tone. It's a very powerful tone. It's also filled with trustworthiness. Green is very earthy. It's very peaceful. And purple, a lot of your purples are usually very creative. They're very wise. And again, we all have our own associations of what each color does based on how much we like that color. But these are just kind of the overall emotions that people tend to associate with color. Step 6. Actually, before I go into step 6, does anybody have any questions so far on anything that we've touched on? What's that?
Difficult to like kind of fit the KCRA logo into like a branch of fillings because of so many different colors?
That's a good question. So for us, I'm going to be honest with you, that green 3 has always been so hard for me to work into different things because news is usually, news colors, when you watch a newscast, you're going to see a lot of blues and you're going to see a lot of reds. Why? Because those are very bold colors. So all of our other graphics we design fall into the blues category. So for me to come along and put a big green 3 on that, I always have to find a way of putting it on there. So I do run into challenges with that, but because of the history of our logo and why they came up with green so many years ago, I can't really change it to blue. So I work with what I have and I try to make it fit as best as I can. So yeah, you're gonna run into that with your clients. They may have specific colors they want you to use, and it's up to us as designers to try to make it work as best as we can. So step 6, and this is important, is to keep your logos flexible. And what I mean by that, let's go back to that Apple logo for a moment. Try using that Apple logo on a phone or on a watch or on the back of a computer. It's going to be a lot harder to do. An effective logo should be able to work across a variety of mediums and applications. It should be able to look good on anything, anywhere. So for example, the logo I use, I need to make sure it looks good on the app, on a website, on a billboard. I need to make sure it looks good on TV and in print. So it's really important, and this is something I want you to kind of take note of as you go forward. If you want to get into logo design, a software that I highly recommend learning is Adobe Illustrator. And it is a complicated little program to learn. It's similar to Photoshop, but it's different enough from Photoshop that makes it a little hard to get to master. But why this is important to learn is because you're going to be creating your graphics in a vector format versus a pixel format. What does that mean? Pixels or raster images are created with, like when you take a photo on your phone, there are millions of little dots in that image to create that photograph. But what happens when you blow up that photograph? What happens to it? It gets blurry, it gets grainy. That's a raster image. You're working with pixels. So if you design a logo in pixels and you blow it up, what's going to happen to it? It's going to get blurry. But if you use vector artwork, and I know this may be a new term for many of you, but when you work in a program like Illustrator, or you can do this in Photoshop if you use the pen tool, what you do is you create a shape by tracing it. So you had talked about that logo where you had a hard time tracing it. When you use the pen tool in Photoshop or in Illustrator and you go around your graphic, it creates these beautiful lines. I'll get to you in 1 second. It creates these beautiful lines. It's like a game of connect the dots. But when you blow it up, the computer redraws those lines and your image is crystal clear. You can blow your logo up to the size of a building if you need to, and it will look beautiful. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Which website do you use the most to make art?
Which website do I use? I don't really use a lot of websites myself, to be honest with you. I guess I was trying to understand, like
do you sketch it out on paper, or do you go on Google this colors?
Oh, I see what you mean. Whenever I do a logo, and this is actually something very important that I should also be sharing with you, when you're starting the design process, I always start with sketching it out first. I personally, the only time I'll use the web is if I want to look for inspiration for ideas. But it's really important, everybody, if you do turn to the web for inspiration on designing something, don't steal from it. Use your own creative ideas. Let it inspire you, let it help you keep yourself up to date, but use your own creative ideas. But I always start by sketching out a logo and showing it to my client first, because I can spend a lot of time and hours in front of the computer designing something for them to say, oh, no, that's not what I was thinking at all. So part of the KISS principle, keeping it super simple, is to sketch it out and just, do that first and let them sign off on that, and then go to the computer. But raster versus vector, there we got it, is very important, because many of your branding companies, like I use merchandise companies to print t-shirts, pens, water bottles, things like that all the time. They're going to need a vector version of my logo, and they need to make sure that it looks just as good in black or in plain white as it does in color, because printing in color gets very expensive. So if you design a logo that has 13 colors in it, it may look beautiful, but my word, if you ever have that put on a shirt, it is going to cost you a fortune per shirt. So whatever logo you design, make sure that you can also do a black and white version of it as well. And like I said, many of these companies, when you go to have them printed, they're going to want an Illustrator file of your logo. And I know we're running out of time, so I'm just going to wrap up real quick with fonts. Fonts are actually my favorite part of the design process, and this is where I have a tendency to overthink. This is where I need to remember the KISS principle, because I will literally spend hours just trying to find the right font for something. But fonts can make or break a logo, and you all must promise me right here and now, if you ever want to get into the design world, you will never, ever, 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 ever use Comic Sans. No matter where you go, people will make so much fun of you if you use Comic Sans in your designs. But choosing the right font is very important, because fonts have a personality to them. The font used for technical here is very cool and very minimalist. Friendly is very rounded and approachable. For creative, just flipping that E like that gives it a little something different. Just one little change like that will give it a different perspective. Strong is a bold, rugged font. It looks solid and dependable. And caring is trustworthy. Look at the way the C kind of embraces it like it's hugging it. But this is what I mean by how fonts have personalities. If I all of a sudden change them around, well, that doesn't look like a very technical font. That's a little too cool to be caring, and that's not really creative, that's not really elegant, So that's what I mean, how fonts have personalities. And if you use Comic Sans, you're going to have absolutely no personality at all. But I'm going to wrap up with step 8. This is the final step, and we had talked about this a little bit. Whatever you decide to do, to turn to the web for inspiration, looking at television, looking at magazines for your inspiration, it's okay to get ideas from them, but just resist the urge to borrow from them. We're in the process of creating a new logo for My 58 right now. And so this is what I mean. I definitely don't want to borrow from existing logos or ideas to try to create a new logo, because believe me, I will be slapped with a lawsuit pretty darn fast. So, well, I got to tell you, it's been my privilege to be here. And if you guys have any questions at all, I can be reached on this email address right here, cabel@hearst.com. But yeah, I gotta say though, if you decide to get out there into media, television, broadcasting, design, it is a lot of fun. And it's definitely been the perfect career choice for me. I've enjoyed it quite a bit and enjoyed being here with all of you. So thank you very much.